Hey guys, what's up? How's it going? This is Easy Things to Draw. Today we're going to go over how to draw Kylo Ren's helmet from Star Wars The Force Awakens. We're just going to go over his helmet because I think his helmet's pretty interesting. It's kind of almost, I don't know, I wouldn't say hard to draw, but it's a little confusing, especially all up in that cheek region as opposed to Vader's. I think Vader's is more straightforward. So we're going to go over this, and I'm going to use just a pencil. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to go over design. I'm not going to go over rendering, so just use any pencil. If you want to know what I'm using, though, it's a Cretacolor Nero Hard. But like I said, you don't really need it. We're going to do the undersketch first. I always start with like just a circle, and the circle's really for that head shape, you know what I mean? Pretty much any humanoid has this kind of encased skull shape. Thinking toward the front here, I like to think of the front, and you know, obviously he has this kind of respirator thing going on. Not really a respirator, I guess. With Kylo, it's what is it, like a voice box, whatever. This shape on front, especially from 3/4 view, especially up front too. I was gonna say, kind of reminds me of like a star has 5 sides on it. So I was gonna say there's the far end over here. There's this end over here, and then it kind of like swoops down. It's almost like this standing thing on the bottom. I think of it almost, and this is like a dumb thing, but I almost think of it like Patrick Star standing there. He's got his feet standing. Oh. He's got his hands out. And I'm even going to pull this. This is, again, the undersketch section, so this is going to be quick and messy. I'm just going to talk about shapes, and then I'll go over it and do the actual thing. So this portion up here is probably the flattest part. Might even actually push further up. It has a little kind of extra knob at the top of it. And then has kind of like one long row for the kind of visual area. This outfit is obviously, inspired by Vader's outfit for a lot of reasons. I'm not going to, no spoilers here, even though it's been a long time. You should have seen the movie if you're watching this. But the eyepiece is kind of all one area. It's like a visor section, kind of similar to, I guess some versions of Stormtroopers have that. But nothing like this. It has more of an angry look. There's this kind of dipping. It's not totally straight up there, like a straight line. It's actually kind of a dip. And it has like a slight dip here. And it's very slight too. So there's kind of a style thing there. It's a curvature. The mask kind of pulls out over here at the cheekbones, and that kind of replicates, again, your cheekbone, your zygomatic arch. They put that in a lot of different masks. Vader had it strong. Vader had this huge, like, cube-like zygomatic arch. He doesn't. So it kind of pulls out over here and connects to the sides of the mask. And again, he's turned slightly this way. So the fact that he's turned slightly that way, I mean, you gotta kind of imagine these things looking off to the left a little. The reason I think of mostly that even animators do that, I don't know if it's kind of off the subject. Oh, actually, let me describe that in a second here. But so as you go up, he's gonna have these rings. He's gonna have about 4 rings. You know what I mean? There's the black in between those 4 rings, so I guess it's gonna look like 8 rows per se, but it's really just 4 rings. And it's gonna mirror that shape. See this kind of dipping I told you, which is kind of make him look a little bit angry. That shape is mirrored up here and throughout all the rings as well. You know what I mean? We'll go into the rings when I throw the paper over it. But those rings are mirrored, and the reason that's a design thing. When you look at design, there tends to be kind of mirror images and stuff like that. When you see some mountains, for example, they'll put the clouds in a similar shape. It's a repeating shape. I'll talk about that in like a composition video. But the same thing works with outfits. You put repeating forms to kind of help the overall design. I hope that kind of makes sense. I'll go over it later, don't worry. And the top of the head is kind of encapsulated, and that's why you kind of have that skull shape there. It's encapsulated, that center part. That center part kind of reminds me of like a motorcycle helmet kind of thing. And that's kind of representing the top plane of the skull. You know what I mean? Like when I said by plane, like if you look at a box, a plane is like a flat side. See, look, this is the top, the front, the side. Well, there's the same thing like that with the head. It's exactly the same thing with the head. So with the head, if you simplify it down, like I said, you're going to have a top plane of the head, even though it rounds out. There are many, many planes. But if you were to really simplify it, there's the top, the left, very similar, you know. So that would be the top plane. And that's kind of where this divides. It almost divides where the top turns into the side plane. But like I said, there's still curvature to it. Pulls down here, and he has clearly this kind of little wings of the, you know, these. I believe that these things were. I mean, obviously this is very similar to Vader. Except it's a little bit smaller. I forget what you call it, the wings of the helmet. It's very similar to a samurai, because that's what Vader was inspired by. He was inspired by a samurai, and they had those things to guard their neck. At least samurais did. They had them large so that if somebody hits them from behind, it might hit that kind of guard as opposed to hitting their neck. I'm not really sure. I think with this, it's more of like a style element. I don't think it's big enough to really guard his neck. It kind of does. And it actually comes out the other side as well. You can kind of see it over here as well. So that's kind of the general shapes. One thing to also remember is the designs within his mask. And we can map those up before we put over the paper. See how I tell you there's 4 rings up here? The main ring comes down, and he's creating a lot of this almost static. I'm not really sure what it represents. If you know what it represents, and you're a Star Wars nut, please message me right here on the comments. Tell me, what does that mean? This pattern here. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to take it and simplify that pattern. Because it seems to be a lot of random, almost abstract kind of squares. I consider them kind of squares with little trail-offs of like smaller squares attached to it. Almost like a beehive. And they don't really interact. But that part, you can kind of... I like to think of it as kind of like Darth Maul's mask, where you can kind of... You know, you don't have to be dead on. You know what I mean? And people will get the idea. But it'd be a good idea. So we're going to do that in the next layer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of paper, right? Piece of paper. And this is regular paper, by the way. And I'm going to throw it on top. And you can vaguely see it. This is normal paper. It's almost like magic, right? Like, you know, like a cheat sheet. Like you have your notes, but you did your notes. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit different. I'm actually going to go in with my pen. And for anybody that knows me, I always use this thing, the Zebra F301 pen. It's just my favorite pen. It's a ballpoint pen. You don't have to do it. You really don't have to do it, guys. But it's kind of go into it. Right now, I'm going to go into the eyes first. The reason I use this right now is because I consider this tech. I almost always, I mean, I do a lot with organic too, but if I'm doing like a demonstration, I tend to do really mechanical stuff with this pen, you know, and I can, like I said, mask is mechanical. We're going to go into his eyes first. Hopefully I warmed up enough. I didn't really warm up at all, but hopefully that's enough. I'm going to pull this and get the large shapes first. You know, especially this mask, because there's a lot of stuff going on. I think this mask has also been in the public eye a little bit less than Vader's. That's probably why I don't have this mask burned into my memory like I have Vader's burned in my memory. Trail off here, almost like a crying thing. I don't know if it represented that or not. Pulling this top portion. And then that has, again, kind of a shape popping out from that. That tends to make things look a little bit more complex, because if you actually look at his mask, from far away, and that's like a good design. When you look at it from far away, it's a very simple design when you look at it. But when you zoom in on it, there's all kinds of, little things going on. And I know that's like a big thing with designers. They tend to do that. That they have that effect. And that's kind of what earns points, I think, with kind of fans and artists. With artists, it's like it is complicated enough, And then to like somebody who doesn't know anything about drawing or design, they're going to be like, well, you know what, that looks good. They don't know why it looks good. They just know that their brain is telling them that it looks good, so for some reason. A lot of, and actually, I want to say that this is a lot more about, I guess, design in a way. When I look at his mask, it's more about design than it is drawing. To ramble about that, I'm going to start rambling because I'm going kind of slow here. To ramble about design, there are people that are good draftsmen, people that are good drawers. I think they call it draftsmen. I think that was the term, where they can draw good stuff. You know what I mean? Really, really good stuff, and they can shade it really well. For example, like back in the day, I used to do like a lot of life drawing, and I saw tons of people like that knew how to draw very well. See, the shapes kind of interconnect as well. I got to pull that down. People that draw really, really well, but they couldn't design anything to save their life, and that's kind of an issue. If you want to be a fine artist, that's completely fine. You don't really have to learn design that much. You just have to have a good design sense. You know what I mean? You have to know how to kind of compose the page a little bit, and not much more. But if you want to be like a game artist, or any kind of artist that has to kind of create stuff, you're gonna have to be a good designer. That's almost number one, actually, because I've seen some guys that are not great at drawing per se, but they can use a 3D program and they can design really well, and that is almost more important in a way, because you're like, wow, this guy's really, really knows what he's doing. Hold on one second. Having to think here at the same time. I was trying to get these shapes out of the way because these shapes are like I said, complicated. And and I'm going to say this because I say it 100 times over. I like to get the hard stuff out of the way first, so that I can, it gives me confidence for the stuff later. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to take care of that front piece first. I'm going to move that latch down. And that has another repeated layer, repeated shape as well, like we talked about. Again, I'll get the easy stuff first. I kind of started going into that stuff and I was like, oh, it's a little bit more complicated than I thought. Pulls up here. Flat. Pull down. I'm going to end this repeated shape over here. And there's a lot of tiny planes, like I talked about in the other one, going on here. There's a plane below it. It's kind of going down at an angle. Second, let me take a quicker look at this. Yeah, I'm going to have to do that. I'm going to find the end of this shape. Pull that back. And also, this is also the point where I think a normal, including me, like your average person, I am an average person, will start to freak out. Where you'll be like, okay, you just gotta tell yourself it'll be fine, you know what I mean? Because when it starts to get a little bit more complicated than you realize, I think I see a lot of people freak out for some reason. And you shouldn't. You just chill out and be like, all right, you're still under control and you got your stuff going. And it'll be fine. You just kind of tell yourself it's going to be just, it'll work out. You tell yourself, like, ugh. You know what I mean? Like, your inner voice starts telling you, like, oh no, this is going to suck. Just don't do that. Because I think it's inherent, and I actually think it stops a lot of people from continuing. So, let me see. I'm going to take care of this far side and some of the head here, and then I'm going to come back. But this is going to take too long, so I'll fast forward this. Sorry about that, my camera wigged out. Anywho, so what I want to do is I want to make this very readable to the viewer. You know what I mean? Because I got like the hardest part done. The hardest part is really the line art. I think the head could be a little bit higher up. Just my opinion from taking a quick view at it again. And so I'm going to try to separate these things a little bit more, like the rings on his head. And like I said, throw some light... and I wouldn't even call this shading, really. This is just ways to separate it. So like a basic, just a regular viewer can look at it. And I'm going to do that a little bit, right? Because I don't want to do the whole thing. I'm not going to shade that whole thing. It's black, with this. This is more the way I think about, like, technical drawings or drawing your own mask. If you want a video on how to design your own mask, I'll definitely do that. Just let me know in the comments if you want that. Because there are some basic rules about that. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, and like I said, I'm doing this more so to understand it. Anyways, hello. So to come back, I was kind of in this position where I was like, how do I kind of present this okay? You know what I mean? Where it's good enough. I almost do this kind of, see this thing I'm doing here, it is shading, but I almost call it like shorthand shading. You know what I mean? It's meant, like I said, just to get the idea across. You know what I mean? I'm not actually going in there and doing like some kind of gallery image. I'm just doing that so that it comes off, as a demo, like this is what I'm doing and this is what I'm thinking. So I kind of got trapped in that corner. I'm like, man, this guy's entirely black. So how can I kind of do these shapes to just kind of convey that a little bit, but also really just kind of conveying the design to make it a little bit more clear. But yeah, really, really cool design. Really fun, actually, design, to be honest. I thought it was very fun around the cheek area. I would do that because, like, let's face it, the hardest part is in this area right here, is this cheek, because it seems so random to me. If anybody can tell me what that means, if you're like a hardcore, if you just know more about Star Wars than I do, because I don't know a whole lot, I'm curious, what is this cheek kind of thing going on? Is there a meaning to that? Is there like some kind of is that a symbol of a tribe or something, or I don't know what, a symbol of a Sith or something. You know what I mean? Does it mean anything? Just curious. Or was it just a cool shape? It might just be a cool shape, kind of like Darth Maul stuff started out as just a cool shape, right? And then it means something. Anyways, that's about it. Thanks a lot, guys. If you have any questions, let me know. Sorry I took a little bit long on this one. This one's a little bit hard to kind of get across. So thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you next time.